realizing that I have the power to choose differently. So do I choose from my default past self that was in the passenger seat of my life, thinking that life was happening to me? Or do I choose from the empowered woman that I am now, with all the knowledge and the awareness that I have? Again, life happens and we forget. Sometimes we fall back to sleep again.
Yeah.
But the beauty is that we now have the awareness that we can wake up.
Welcome to the Silent Epidemic by Omnia Therapy. I'm your host, Hatice Mehmet-Quirk. Today's conversation explores something many of us experience but rarely name: the silent ways mental health, identity and belief systems shape how we show up at work, often without us even realising it. I'm joined by Mel Hassan, a health, wellbeing and engagement specialist and therapeutic coach, whose work sits at the intersection of workplace wellbeing, self-development and deep inner transformation. Mel is passionate about changing the narrative around well-being, moving it away from tick box initiatives and towards something that is genuinely embedded in culture, leadership and lived experience. Alongside her organisational work, Mel supports individuals to step out of autopilot, challenge the stories that have kept them small and reclaim their power, both personally and professionally. Her work is grounded not just in theory, but in lived experience, having spent many years navigating anxiety, unexamined beliefs, and a sense of powerlessness before consciously rewriting her own story. Mel, welcome to the show. I'd love to start by exploring how this journey began for you.
Thank you for having me. Where do I start, really? I would say for the first 30 years of my life, I was defined by anxiety. And that's all I really knew, to be honest. I just felt really unfulfilled, really unhappy, was seeking validation everywhere, but internally. And in 2013, I'd say, it was probably when my mental health hit rock bottom. Anxiety started to lead into depression. And, you know, as they say, you need to hit rock bottom because then the only way is up, really. So probably in my worst time, I made this decision that there has to be more to life. This can't be it. I was seeing people around me happy, content, living their lives, and I wanted a bit of that. So that's when I first kind of peeked into a new perspective and started to ask for support, really.
Right. It's funny, when you were speaking there about 30 years, like being almost navigated and shaped by that anxiety that you was experiencing. But then I dare say that you probably weren't even aware how much of an impact it was having on your life, that it just was your normal.
That's it, yeah.
And it sounds like that normal got sort of led to a place that became so uncomfortable, leading to depression, like it does. You know, you're not the only one that's going to go on that journey to hit that rock bottom, to then say, no, actually, there has to be something different out there. There has to be some changes that I need to make. And that's where you began this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I describe it as being in autopilot, kind of sleepwalking through life and not knowing that there is a difference, like I say. But things have to get really messy, I think. And things, I mean, not always. I don't want to make the assumption for everybody, but from what I hear from clients that I work with and a lot of people I talk to, it gets really messy before it gets better. Because getting to that point of, I can't do this anymore.
But then also you said it earlier about saying I need some support, which we spoke about this off camera before we started, that we come from perhaps a generation where that wasn't the norm. That wasn't what happened. That isn't how things go. Seeing it perhaps maybe as a weakness.
Yeah.
But now I think we're both on this page. It's a sign of strength, isn't it? To be able to say, hold on, this isn't working. I'm not happy. I need some support to help me navigate that, to strengthen who I am.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. That's one of the biggest narrative shifts for myself, that actually it takes a very, very strong person to be able to say, I need help. I can't do this on my own. And one of the things that I thought was my biggest weakness actually was my biggest strength. And this is the message that I want to get across to as many people as possible, because asking for help was, for me, the hardest thing it felt like then to do, but the bravest thing that I've ever done, and something that was the first step into my transformation. So I'm so glad, so grateful for myself that I did.
Yeah. So as much as it felt difficult, it sort of turned things around for you. It's given you this new way of living, which has freed you from that anxiety and has given you the strength to now not only change the way you're living, but help others change the way they're living.
Yeah. And do you know, even you just saying it, I have to pinch myself sometimes, because 10 years ago, I never ever would have imagined that not only would I be where I am, but that I'd be in a position to be able to help other people. So it's so possible, isn't it? Like, for anybody. And that's what kind of happened to me when I stepped into the self-development world, and I started to shift my perspective and step into the driver's seat of my life and my narrative. And just seeing how my belief systems were shaping how I was showing up in all areas of my life, and that they were all created based on my experiences, which maybe I definitely can't change my experiences. They've happened, but I can change the meaning. And I can change, what they mean about me, because my past doesn't have to define me.
No.
And it's just such a powerful position to be able to be in, and everybody has that ability. So as the more I learned that, the more I was like, everyone needs to know about this. And then I had a whole career change. Everything kind of shifted, because in my darkest time, not only did I transform my life, I found my passion, which is so amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just a quick break from today's episode. If you've ever tried to get therapy, you know how frustrating it can be. You're finally ready to talk to someone, but you've been stuck on a waiting list for months. That's not how mental health support should work. Omnia Therapy makes getting help simple. You can book a session with a fully qualified professional in just 24 hours. No waiting, no contracts, just real support when you need it. And at £40 per session is actually affordable. If you're struggling, don't wait. Tap the link in the show notes or head to omniahealthgroup.com to book your session today. It's really lovely, because from what you're describing, it's actually that change of perspective. And it sounds like your journey, it wasn't a massive one in terms of what you did. It was just the small tweaks that you put in place to maybe change that worldview has made such a big impact on how you live your day to day, than how you help others see their day to day. And it's working alongside people to help them have that perspective shift, because as you said, we can't change it.
No.
But we can change how it impacts us, how we view it, what that meaning is to us. Yeah, we go through difficulties, but as again, we said this off camera, where you can use those difficulties to make change.
Absolutely. And you're so right in terms of those micro moments, because one of the things that's really shifted for me as well is it's not a destination. So at the beginning, I was like, right, I want to get over there. I just want to be happy. I want to be free of anxiety, depression, all of that stuff. But that's just not the way it goes, right? This is a forever journey. And it's really, I know this sounds so cliche and these sayings, it's funny actually, because when you start to heal, the cliche sayings make so much sense, don't they? But it isn't about the destination, it is about the journey. And I'm not sitting here now saying I'm completely free of anxiety and my mental health is A star every day, because it's not, life happens, triggers are there. But for me, what it is and with the work that I do with people, it's not about being free of any kind of stress or negative feeling. It's about embracing all the feelings that we have, because one of the things that as human beings we're really lucky to have is the ability to experience every emotion. But what we tend to do is push away and try and suppress the ones that don't feel good and we've labelled as bad, and we try and chase the ones that feel really nice. But that's what keeps us stuck. That's what takes away from being present. And actually one of the things that I've learned is sit with the feelings, whether they feel good, whether they feel bad, they're all temporary. That's the most amazing thing. And the more we try and resist the ones that don't feel good, the more they persist. The more we try and push down and suppress, they're there, they're going to stay there. They're not going to, they're not going to go away. So finding ways to be able to navigate some of those emotions and enjoying the good ones, because the good ones are temporary as well, right? But it is just finding the way, finding your coping. That's what it's all about. And I think that starts with that self-awareness piece. We talked about this off camera, didn't we? Really understanding why we're showing up in the way that we are, and really being able to put our belief systems under the microscope and go, okay, where did these come from? Which ones are really helping me and serving me in the life I want to create, and which ones are keeping me stuck? Because it's like carrying around a big rucksack of heavy rocks, like for no reason. And we keep collecting them, and eventually there'll be big suitcases that we're dragging around. Let's start looking at them and getting rid of the ones that don't serve us, so that we can navigate life and be happy, content. Again, not all the time. But how quickly can we get ourselves back to that standard of feeling happy and content?
It's funny actually, because when you're speaking, I always use this analogy when I'm working with clients, or for anyone that cares to listen. I'll say life is full of speed bumps, and sometimes when you drive. Okay, so when you drive, sometimes you come across a speed bump and you don't realise that it's there, right? And you go over it and your car sort of like rocks around all over the place, and it's like, whoa. It takes a little while for you to sort of get that smooth journey on the go again. Sometimes you see the speed bumps and they're in the distance, and so you can prepare for them, you can slow down. You go over them with the car, and the impact on the car is minimal because you've prepared yourself. And with therapy, or through that self-awareness piece, it's navigating both. It's being able to navigate, actually, when do I need to slow down because I can see the speed bump coming? And how do I bounce back from those unexpected ones that just come up at me? But also being aware that our brain is programmed to feel emotions.
Absolutely.
So why are we switching them off? Why aren't we tapping into what they mean? We need to understand. It's almost like I say to clients, it's almost like a trigger warning. If you're sad, why are you sad? What's the sadness for? And is it okay not to just feel that sadness?
Totally.
Why have we got to run away from it? So,
and we spoke about that, right? Like you said, in our generation, this wasn't something we talked about. I'm really happy that things are moving and we are talking about this stuff more, but I still think we've got a long way to go, thinking about things like emotional regulation and all of that, trying to teach children from a young age so we don't have as many adults walking around not knowing how to
completely dysregulated.
Because we all are. And I love your analogy, because one of the things I'm really learning, I'm working with because I'm always, like I said, it's a forever journey. So it's not about I do what I do because I've got it all figured out and I'm totally healed and sitting on a pedestal. With the people I work with, I'm side by side, I'm shoulder to shoulder. And what I love is, with the work that I do, I continue to work on myself as I carry on doing it. I learn from clients, which is incredible. But one of the things, I'm working with an amazing coach at the moment. I did a lot of work around my mental health, but there was still a bit of a gap. And I was like, there was a bit of a disconnect. And one of the things that I realised late last year was there was this disconnect from my body and the impact the trauma and everything had on my body and my nervous system. And one of the things I'm really learning in terms of connecting to my body is slowing down.
Yeah.
So that analogy is so good, slowing down to really prepare yourself for that bump. One of the biggest ways we can really help ourselves and regulate ourselves, even in the simple day-to-day things, when I'm hoovering, when I'm putting my makeup on, whatever it might be, noticing how fast I'm doing it and just slowing down and allowing space to feel. But a lot of the time, we're rushing and we're filling those gaps because we don't want to sit with those feelings.
Just a quick break from today's episode. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: mental health at work. If you run a business, you've probably seen it. Stress, burnout, employees who aren't performing at their best because they're struggling. The problem? Most companies don't know how to address mental health in a way that actually helps their team. That's where Omnia Corporate Training comes in. We provide CPD certified mental health training that's practical, flexible, and designed to fit into any workplace. If you want to invest in your team's well-being, and let's be real, happy employees perform better, tap the link in the show notes or visit omniahealthgroup.com to learn more. It's funny because when you was talking there about like a generation and how it reminded me of my daughter lost a great-grandparent and she was crying. And this was a few years ago, and she came to me, she was crying, and I felt really uncomfortable that she was sad. So I was going to her, don't cry, don't cry. And sort of like, she'd calmed down a little bit. And then I stepped away and I thought, no, why am I telling her don't cry? It's because I felt uncomfortable that she felt she was sad. As a parent, you want to fix it. So your natural thing is, oh, don't do that because you just want it to stop. So I went back in, I was like, no, cry. Cry as much as you want. And she looked at me like, I was like, no, let it out. Let it out, babes. Just get it out your system. And she was like, where's that 180 come from? I was like, because actually, I'm going on that from how I was brought up in that you don't show emotion. Actually, feel it. That's what it's there for. You're feeling sad, let it out. We talk about that quite regularly because we have to show it.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up that point because it's an automatic thing we do because we want people to not be sad because it makes us feel a bit uncomfortable, especially, or it makes us feel sad, especially when it's your own child. I had an experience recently with my nephew. Something really sad had happened and he was crying. And it was really interesting because in the past I would have done exactly the same thing. Don't cry, because what we're saying is, I can't bear to see you sad. But instead, I said, I know this is sad, and I'm struggling because I can't take this pain away from you. Because that's what we do, right? As adults, we care about the children around us, and we want to take away the pain. But I was really honest with him, and I said, I can't take this pain, and it is tough, and it feels really tough. But I'm here, and I'm next to you, and it's one of the things I try and remind myself of whenever I'm around. When I'm with clients, it's different, but when there's that emotional, when it's a friend or family member, it's really easy when someone's really upset to jump into solution mode or
rescuer.
Don't cry, or I'm going to hug you. And even the hug, sometimes what happens is people go, oh, I'm okay. So actually giving people that space and saying, it's okay to cry. Actually, this is just releasing those emotions. And one of the things that happened to me many years ago, and I always share this, is I was really upset. And the person that I went to for support said, do you want me to help you find a solution, or do you just want me to listen? And I remember I was really taken aback. I was like, oh, no one's ever asked me that question before. And so it's something I really try to, when somebody's upset. So even with my nephews, it works really well with children as well. To ask them that, because what you're saying is it's safe for you to express every emotion here with me. And sometimes that's all the other person needs. We've all been in that situation where we've offloaded or we've cried and we've gone, oh, I feel so much better now. So yeah, it's such a being mindful of our own feelings getting in the way is such a powerful thing.
Through the work that I do, like I supervise trainees, or I just supervise in general other therapists, and new therapists, trainees, always are keen and eager to like sort of demonstrate what they've learned. It's all part of the journey. It's the reason why, you know, everyone has to do the 100 hours voluntarily to sort of, how do you gauge that metric? How do you learn to balance it? And I always remind them that our clients have come to therapy because they want that space. It's not about us jumping in with our Superman cloak on to fix it, because we don't have the answers. They do.
Yeah.
We're just going to help them in that safe space to explore and find out what are the answers that they've been ignoring? What are the answers that they've switched off, or the perspectives that they've not even considered yet, because they've had that tunnel vision view full of anxiety, depression, you know, whatever difficulty they're experiencing that is stopping them from having that opportunity.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to pull back and just listen.
Yeah, that's it. And do you know what? I'll take that one step further for ourselves. Sometimes we need to just step back and listen to what our body's telling us or what we need right now. Because again, we're very quick, like we are with other people, to jump in. Again, we're very quick to jump into the comforts that we usually do, whether that's having a glass of wine or putting on our comfort show or whatever it is, those avoidant behaviours that we all do. Actually sitting with ourselves and taking that step back and allowing ourselves that space, again, can sometimes feel like the scariest thing to do. And we talk about things like, you know, meditation, breath work, all those great tools, and they are great tools, but sometimes it is just give yourself a minute. We can have the 10-step routines, they're great, but just sitting with ourselves and learning to connect and hear what do I need right now? It can be so powerful.
Because without that, the grounding techniques, the mindfulness can be really difficult to do.
Yeah.
When you're like so uncomfortable to sit with yourself, that you're not even allowing yourself that minute to think, what do I need? What's going on for me?
Yeah.
And how are you meant to sit there and deep breathe and, you know, think about some mindfulness place to go to when you're so disconnected from yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we disconnect as a protection, don't we? That's what we do. Like, so telling people to jump straight into really connecting can be really scary. Yeah, it's something that I avoided. I still struggle with, to be honest, that silence and just sitting with myself, because I spent so many years doing the exact opposite.
And that's become your almost default mode.
Yeah.
And again, I always like to remind people that during difficult times, we will revert back to that default mode. But it's knowing that actually we now know that there's a different way of doing it. So, okay, I've gone to default. Well, that doesn't mean that all the work I've done has been undone. I've just gone to default. Okay, I now know I need to do X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C to get me back to where I need to be. Yeah. Because that default is there because it's part of how we developed.
Exactly that. And that's the self-awareness piece, right? And one of the most powerful things that I learned was, in every moment I have a choice of how I respond or react. In the past, I was reacting on autopilot, that default. Now, I think what the major difference is that, not all the time, because, you know, none of us are perfect.
Yeah, we're all human.
And there are times where I'll react and I'll be like, oh, there she is. She's still there. She's nice. And again, that brings up a really good point about when we do go into that default. In the past, I would have judged myself and shamed myself. You know, I've had therapy, I've had coaching. I am a coach. I shouldn't be doing that. And all that did was spend so much energy in that, shaming myself. And one of the things I've learned is we can't shame ourselves into healing or being the best version of ourselves. So now I approach that version of myself with love, with humour, with curiosity. Oh, that's interesting. Why did that show up?
Yeah.
Or I'll laugh. You know, some people, with some of my clients, will come up with names for that default version. Oh, look, here's Sheila. She's popped up again. Sheila's not my one. I don't know who Sheila is. But do you know what I mean? So approaching it with curiosity disempowers it.
Yeah.
And with love and with humour, whichever works. And then realising that I have the power to choose differently. So do I choose from my default past self that was in the passenger seat of my life, thinking that life was happening to me? Or do I choose from the empowered woman that I am now, with all the knowledge and the awareness that I have? Again, life happens and we forget. Sometimes we fall back to sleep again. But the beauty is that we now have the awareness that we can wake up. And we can choose. And one of the other things that I've learned in those moments where I have reacted from that triggered default self, one of the quickest ways to really cement who I'm creating myself to be and who I am now is to acknowledge it and clean it up. So if I've reacted in a way to somebody I really care about, in the past, what I'd do is feel really bad and I'd shame myself and I'd feel really guilty, and then I'd spend loads of time trying to overcompensate with that person. Too much time, too much energy. It's just depleting energy for no reason whatsoever. Now, what I try to do is, and I say try to do because again, we're not all perfect, is clean it up. Approach that person, whether I feel better doing that in a text or in a conversation. Do you know what? The way I responded was wrong, right? That's not how I want to show up. That's not who I am. So I apologise. And I've even made agreements with people in my family or like my friends. Can you help me out? Can we make an agreement that if I respond like that again, with love, you'll gently tell me? Because that's really helping me and it's helping our relationship. That's every time you choose to do that, or you choose differently in that moment, or if you didn't, you clean it up, you're reinforcing that trust with yourself, you're reinforcing that empowered person you now are, and your ability to be in that driver's seat of your life. And every time we do it, it's like a muscle, right? We don't decide we want a six-pack and go to the gym once. You can't. You have to keep going. It's that consistency. And the more you do it, the more that becomes your norm. And again, the default will show up. It'll always be there. But again, embrace it with love, that default version of yourself, because every version of yourself played a part in who you are today, right? And I want to, rather than shame or try and avoid those versions of myself, I want to embrace those versions with love, because they were all doing the best that they could at that time. And so just replacing that judgment and shame with just love and curiosity, powerful.
Because actually shame or guilt in play, like, and replacing that with that curiosity and that idea of, well, what can I learn from that? What is that message? What is that signal telling me? You're going to get far more from exploring that signal than you are sitting there self-loathing, full of shame, full of guilt, chastising yourself. That's where you're stuck. And you can't move forward from that. There's no growth to be made. And again, we spoke about this off camera. As a parent, I try and live like that with my kids. I will always make mistakes. As a parent, I might snap. I might say the wrong thing. I might make the wrong decision. I put my hands up and say, sorry, kids, that was wrong. Or actually, I shouldn't have said that. Or I should have let you do this. Or whatever it may be. And I explain it to them. Because then they get to understand that I'm human. I can make mistakes. And we're trying to figure it out together, because it's life. And we're always trying to adapt. How I brought up my 18-year-old, it's very different to how I'm going to now bring up my 8-year-old, because the world has changed so much in that time. So I'm it's almost like learning all over again.
That's it. And you know that saying that children don't do what you say, they do what you do. So they're watching you. I don't have children, but one of the things that I know as adults, and again, we spoke about this, there's children in my life who I love. My nephews, I'm very much in their life. And one of the things I'm so conscious of is my influence over how they see themselves, how they see others, how they see the world. It's huge. It's so huge. And I shared with you, in terms of changing the narrative, my mission, one of the elements of that is that I want to explore down the line is working with parents to really understand how their belief systems influence their children's belief systems. And one of the, a lot of people say, oh, I would do anything for my children. And one of the biggest things that you can do is really put those belief systems under the microscope and be mindful about that, how that influences how they see themselves. So I love to hear that, you know, admitting that you've made mistakes, admitting when you're not okay, because what you're saying to children is it's okay to do that. We don't have to be superheroes. You know?
Just a quick break from today's episode. Have you ever felt like the kind of support you need just doesn't exist? Maybe you need help outside of normal hours. Maybe you don't even know where to start. That's why Omnia Neurodiscovery exists. We offer specialised, flexible mental health support, including intensive evening and weekend packages for people who need something different. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, don't wait. Tap the link in the show notes or visit omniahealthgroup.com to find out how we can help. It's okay not to be okay, that old cliche. We're all allowed to have a bad day.
Absolutely.
And if you need to embrace it, you need to embrace it. But given them this idea that, you know, you're sort of Mary Poppins and everything's, you know, perfect, it's not realistic. And how is that going to set them up to then navigate life when they are going to hit difficulties?
Yeah, setting them up to fail, really, isn't it?
Definitely.
And I usually have New Year's resolutions, and this year I didn't want to. But what I did do is I set an intention of how I want to show up. And I said, I want to do my best every day. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, with a bit of a caveat of my best is going to look different every day. And I think that's really powerful. And this is something I talk to my nephews about. It is good to do, because we say that to kids a lot, do your best, do your best. But adding that and recognise that your best is going to look different every day, I think is really important, because like we said, there's life. As women, our hormones, you know, one of the things I'm learning as I get older, our hormones are going all over the place as well. So our best is going to look different every day. And sometimes for me, my best looks like more sleep, because that's what I need. But in the past, it would have been, oh, well, your best is do. It's kind of that masculine energy approach to, like, we've got to do everything, and no matter how we're feeling, we've got to show up.
Look how many balls I'm juggling.
And this wearing, I'm so busy and I've got so much to do, like a badge of honour. And thinking about going back to children, one of the things that one of my biggest pet peeves is like 100% attendance awards at school, because that is a massive message of no matter how you're feeling, show up and you'll be rewarded. But actually, us learning, it's taken me a long time to learn that I don't need to show up at 100% all the time. And if I don't, that doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean I'm not good enough. It's okay to have a nap. Like, I used to feel really guilty having a nap. Now I really enjoy them.
And
they're important, aren't they? They're a necessity. But these messages that we have to unlearn. I dream of a world where all of this unlearning I've had to do, because that's what it is really. I used to think I was broken, I needed to be fixed. It wasn't. It's just that I needed to remember who I was without all of those labels that I'd picked up. And if we didn't have to do all of this unlearning, how powerful would that be? If we had this understanding from when we were able to understand. You know, I think children's, if you think about when they're like innocent children, where they all fall and they'll get back up again and they don't let anything affect them really. I think it's around 7. You know, when kids get to that point where they're a bit embarrassed if you give them a kiss in front of their friends, or that's when their brain starts picking up on all the adult, picking up all this meaning around, you know, what does this mean about me, and attaching to all these labels. So if we can start at that age where we're learning about this stuff at school, oh my God, one day we might have a world, maybe not in my time, but we'll have a world where we won't need therapists or coaches, and hopefully it won't be in my world.
No, you're doing us out of a job.
But wouldn't it be great? I'm sure every single therapist and coach and mental health professional would be like, yeah, I'm up for that, if there was a chance for that to happen, and everybody just had this understanding that they have this power and ability to be able to create their lives.
So, if there was one piece of advice that you would like to share with our listeners today, what would it be?
I would say that my one piece of advice is, if you are feeling stuck, if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you feel like there has to be more to life, like I once did, reach out for support. Speak to somebody, because there's so much now out there. It could be a therapist, it could be a coach, it could just be a friend. But do that, because there's so much, we're looking at life in one way when we've got that tunnel vision. But one of the biggest things for me is that I realised after 30 years that I can take those tunnel vision goggles off, and there's this way, there's so many different perspectives, and you have the power to change your life by changing your narrative.
Nice. Mel, thank you for sharing your story and your insight and the work you do to help people reclaim their power and rewrite their narratives. Conversations like this remind us that mental health doesn't sit outside of our working lives. It lives within our beliefs, our cultures, and the stories we tell ourselves every day. To our audience, thank you for joining us on the Silent Epidemic. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Join us next time as we continue uncovering the hidden conversations shaping mental health, well-being, and the human experience.